prayer rug. The time starts now. Despite it sounding cliche, New Year, New Me is certainly achievable, but not through magic and wishing. Prayer and action must meet in the middle, which is when you will truly see the new you emerge. Thank you for listening. I would like to bring up a beautiful sister, an attorney, a mother, a wife, an MGT, Sister Kiana Mans Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Let's give Sister Kudisa another round of applause. Man, to be so brilliant and so young, so early, that's a blessing. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in his sight. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be in the class of the gods. In the nation of Islam, I am just honored to be here on the podium and have a few words to share with you today. I would be remiss if I did not thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who allowed me to hear a word, because I would know nothing about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was it not for his top student. I mean, he has been so obedient. And he has shown us the love of the messenger in his absence. And so I am so grateful to be a member right now, to be present in this hour, in this time, to see all of your beautiful faces this morning, to be here with you and share what Allah has done for me, to share my testimony, because that's the best thing that you can give somebody, to know that a word has changed you and has changed your life for the better. So I greet you all in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. And I am just grateful, too, to be back in Houston. I have been traveling with my family in Los Angeles. I went away for the holidays. How many of you all had an opportunity to be with your family for the holidays? Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. It's a blessing, man. It is a blessing to still be able to be with those that you love and to enjoy them while they are here. I am a big proponent of giving people flowers while they live. And so I also want to say thank you to our student minister here, Brother Abdul Alim Muhammad, who has served us tirelessly and has been on his post going strong for many years, and it is something to serve black people. So I want to say thank you to him and to the laborers here at Muhammad Mosque 45 for their work and their dedication. But I want you all to know that the minister gives divine guidance in its present time, and it is right on time. He has tweeted, and he has just told us to start the revolution of kindness. He says, open your hearts to your family. Open your heart to your neighbors. Open your heart to your people and show them the love that you want. And when I read that, the part that struck me was the love that you want. Love is the highest frequency of vibration. Say that. And so when you open your heart to your family, and some people be so scared, and I'm going to say us that's mosque-y, and us that's churchy. Sometimes you're so scared to go around people who don't think like you, who don't look like you, but you're not sharing your light. You're not being an example in the midst of darkness. Right. And so it was so fulfilling for me to come out as a member in the Nation of Islam and to be around my family who knew me when I was Kiki, you know? So they could see what Islam has done for me. Islam is a way of life. I don't take it off and put it on. Allah has blessed me to come into the knowledge of how to better live my life. Right. And so when I go around my family, I don't have to keep preaching. I don't have to keep teaching. I am teaching by the way that I act. Right. I am teaching by my example. And so now when we have a get-together, they ask my husband, Brother David, to say the prayer. They asked my husband, Brother David, to open up the meeting. If it's something wrong, they call Brother David, who was Gangsta David in the past. So your life work speaks for you. And when they see me and my children, they say, how is Aaliyah doing? Because my daughter had a medical scare and she was in the hospital. And she was going to have a brain operation, or they were pushing us to give her a brain operation. And we said, oh no, we got to lean on our faith. We got to practice what it is that we say we believe. So my husband and we prayed about it and we thought about it. And I'm not going to say it was no easy thing. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you like, oh, it was automatic. I already knew that what I was going to do. No, I wrestled with it. No, it was when you're talking about your child, you're talking about your baby and you see her with tubes and she's in the hospital and you have no control. But I know one person who does. By the grace of Allah, and meeting the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has taught me to depend on nobody but God. I don't need anybody to interfere with my relationship with Allah. I can go directly to the source. And so when I prayed about it and when I spoke with Allah, it was on my heart to do what it is that I have given you. Try it. And we say we do. We say, you know, I strive to. We have How to Eat to Live, but I can say I was eating better than I was when I was in the world. We say in the world when you're not coming in as a believer. But I cannot say that I was doing or my family was doing How to Eat to Live 100%. So we said we're going to do How to Eat to Live 100% and let Allah show and prove. And he did. And he did. His promise is true. His promise is true. And so Aaliyah has been on the program for How to Eat to Live. And guess what? My family, that's all they wanted to know about. How is Aaliyah doing on the program? Oh, Aaliyah looks good. Oh, Aaliyah, what is she eating? Oh, is Aaliyah still on that program? And I didn't have to bring out the book. I didn't have to put it down in their throat that we don't eat pork, that we don't do this. They see my baby up and walking. Come on. And they saw her in a hospital bed, sending me texts of prayers, sending me light when they knew that we were in a dark place. But they see that my God, who I called on, he answered. He answered. And that was because the minister has taught me and has taught us who are in the MGT and the GCC class that Allah loves us so much, sisters. I mean, so much. And sometimes it's hard for me to contain myself. And I love the brothers. We love you, FOI. I'm telling you we do. But sometimes I have to contain myself to my husband like, you don't know? Allah got me. And he protects me. My husband does. He look out for me. I got a good man. But I don't have to depend on nobody or nothing but Allah. He is giving me so much security. And that's what he wants to do for you, sisters. That's what he wants to do for you. And when you come into the MGT and the GCC, he says, be kind to your neighbors. You have a sisterhood here. Man, I'm going to tell you, back in the day, I didn't like girls. I didn't like to be around females. It was an uncomfortable feeling for me because I came from a family of 9 aunties. And when I tell you that they loved on me and they gave me self-confidence and self-esteem, that when I got into the real world, I couldn't get that same connection. I couldn't get that same feeling. You know, you would go into a room and, oh, she thinks she cute, and I do. Oh, she thinks she this, and I do. Because that was what I got. I got the love of genuine women. And when you get the love of a sister, y'all know that, sisters. When you get the love of a sister, it's no other feeling than being loved by another woman. And let me make it clear, not a romantic love. I'm saying a genuine love of a sister who wants for you what she wants for herself. Who wants you actually to be better than she is. And I felt that, and I knew that what my aunties and my mom gave me was pure love. And so when I went out into the world, it was hard for me to navigate. So I kind of moved around and tried to make every excuse for me not to be in this or not to be in that whenever it was a lot of women, because I am confident. And it's hard for me to turn it off. And sometimes that come off as something else. And it's very hard. It's a good thing for the brothers, they be, have their swag and everything. But sometimes in the room of women, and they know what I'm talking about, brothers. If I'm losing you, they know what I'm talking about. In the room of women, it gets a little intimidating. That's right. And so Allah has just been so merciful to me in allowing me to come into the MGT and a GCC sisterhood, because I can tell you, I found that same love as I had from my aunties and my mom. I found that same love. When I tell you, genuine spirits in here. We're not perfect. We're not perfect, but when you have a light that is shining on you, that is so bright, which comes from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which he gets directly from the source, and he shares that light with you, it's hard for you not to be. It's hard for you not to be loving. It's hard for you not to be kind. And we have a class that shapes and molds us into women of God. I mean, and to come into a class, I say, these sisters won't let me fail. Golly, sometimes I don't even want to do it, and they won't let you fail. And so I am so thankful and grateful to be a part of the MGT and GCC, because it's nothing like being a black woman. And the Nation of Islam is tailor-made for the black man and woman. Come on now. And so when I come into the class of the gods with the sisters, because we have our own class, right? So when I come into the class of the gods with the sisters, I can be myself. I'm not trying to be nobody else. I can be myself. And when I say Islam is a way of life, that's what I'm telling you, sisters. Bring your talent. Bring your gifts. Bring everything that you are, your style, your way. We're not trying to change you. We're trying to improve you. Allah is the best knower. He knows what you need. And I'm telling you, this class has everything that you need. I'm telling you, in terms of mother, wife, all of that, I would know nothing. I would not be able to do nothing correctly and in the way of God, because that's who I want to reflect. That's who I want to be like. And so in the acts of kindness, he says, open your heart to your people and show them the love that you want. And so our act of devotion in the Nation of Islam is going out to serve our people. So open your heart to your people and show them the love that you want, because we love that word love, sisters. We love to be loved. We do. We really do. And so I'm going to bring up our main speaker, who is my sister for real. And when I say that, you may say, well, yeah, y'all have a lot of things in common, because you guys are lawyers. Yeah, that's true. You guys are mothers. Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to tell you, we have more children than anybody can even think of in our practice, really. When they see Sister Sadia and I downtown, they just shake their heads. Like, I can't even believe it. You guys are down here every day doing what you do with all those children. Because, professional women, we don't really have families. Because we are dedicated to going up that ladder. We're dedicated to, going up the route of what this world tells us will bring us success and happiness. But there's no greater feeling than being a mother. There's no better and harder job than being a wife. And so it prepares us for everything. So yes, we share being a mother. We share being a wife. We share being an MGT and GCC. And we share being a member of the Nation of Islam, which is a small group. But it's an elite group. It's a special group. It's the group that you want to be in today. And so, but that's not just why she's my sister for real. She's my sister for real because when we met, we share a love of our people. I'm telling you, this sister, anyone who knows her, know that she will go on the front line for black people. That she gives her all for black people. And not just black people, black women, sisters. She loves you so much. And she is here for you for whatever. And when she asked me to come, I didn't want to come. I was just getting off the plane. I'm jet lagged. I'm tired, but I could not refuse. There's nothing that she would not do for me. And I know this. There's nothing she will not do for you. And you might say, she don't even know me. You're right. That's the kind of sister she is. That's the kind of sister she is. And so I love her so much. And she's my sister for real because she understands the nature of her light. And she studies. And when she studies, she learns how to use her light. And she shapes it with love and compassion. And she's a beautiful sister. And if you want a warrior, and we call her the warrior lawyer, if you want a warrior in any capacity, call Sister Sadia. I call her Wonder Woman. That was my favorite childhood hero because she just amazed me. She just gives and gives and gives, and her power, her light is so bright that I'm honored to say she's my sister and my friend. So I bring her up, and for you all to recognize who you're looking at, Sister Sadia Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. And I cannot thank Allah enough for his intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, who came 9,000 miles just for us. He came to the densest place, the hells, that's right. He came to a place where nobody wanted to go. He came to a desolate place. He came to a graveyard of a place where there was nothing but dry bones. And that was the black people in North America. But when he came to speak a word. He came to set up a class. He came to give a nation to a people and help them rise again. And that is none other than Master Fard Muhammad. But then he found a man that was in the midst of Black Bottom, Detroit. And it was a man with not a lot of education, a man who knew that Bible. And he knew that Bible better than anybody that understands this Bible now, because he saw certain things in the Bible that your average Christian could not see. He saw it in a mathematical code. He saw it as Islam. But see, when Master Fard Muhammad, he rose this uneducated black man, he gave him what we have, and that's called the supreme wisdom. Because he knew we were a miserable people, and he was the first begotten of the Nation of Islam. And we owe these teachings, and we owe our lives in the Nation of Islam to this man who taught us who was nothing. And now that we know that we are something, and we can walk around and we can truly call ourselves and know that we are God's, one with force and power. And so we thank Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank Allah for the man that he raised up that is still in our midst. That is a divine warner. That is a beautiful man. He is the baddest man right now in the universe. Although they may come and attack him, we know that Allah has his back, and we know that the Savior has his back. And no matter what they try to come at him with, we know that this master student, this master teacher, this master servant is none other than Minister Louis Farrakhan. That beautiful black man. His light was so bright that I wanted to follow it. And because I followed his light is because I can stand before you today and have a testimony like my beautiful sister Kiana. And have a testimony like our beautiful 14-year-old sister who can come up here and teach you and be like Jesus, right? And speak with authority and make the scholars just be in wonderment. And then our beautiful sister, our interim doctor, our holistic practitioner who can break down the science of how to eat to live, who can take what's in your kitchen and bring you back to life. And she uses her skills to resurrect the black man and the black woman here in North America and all over the planet Earth. And that is Sister Sharifa. For those women, I like to thank Allah for them as well. And I greet you in our Father's language, in the words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum. How is the family feeling on today? I'm feeling fine as well, and I'm excited about the topic today. And I know the words, will the real Mary please stand up, sounds a little confrontational, and it is, because I want you to be able to confront some realities that we have to deal with ourselves. And what I learned that if you cannot look yourself in the mirror and if you can't confront those things that are impediments to you, then you cannot be the master of those things. You cannot be the God in your own universe. And so not only is this word confrontational in a good way, because it's a challenge. It's challenging us to do something different than what we've done before. We have to accept the challenge. So it's a righteous challenge to us, not to us as women, but brothers, it's a challenge to you as well. And I'll go into why you are considered a Mary as well. Now, if you heard me the last time that I stood up on this rostrum, we talked about Allah and how he comes in the feminine expression of a woman. But we are taught that there is the feminine expression in man as well. You need the woman in order to be created. You did not come to the vicissitudes of this life without a woman, did you? You needed 23 of her chromosomes, did you not? So part of your makeup is that of a woman as well. But we know that through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is fashioned as a woman, and most prophets are fashioned as a woman, and he is our messenger, and he was fashioned as a woman. We know that in the Holy Scripture, he is the sign, and she is the sign of the messenger, if you but study. Right. So, brothers, this message is for you as well. Praise be to Allah. So, if we can go to the next slide, as I set up. So, in my lectures, I make it a point to try to put this particular slide in the front. Because, as I always say, nothing that I tell you comes from me. I am a consummate student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan. And any person that you meet in the Nation of Islam, they'll tell you they became students, even if they did not have a great education. It is through the study of these teachings that we have become more knowledgeable than the world's scholars, the biblical scholars, the Islamic scholars. Is that right, family? That's right. We confound the scholars. We speak in authoritative voices because we know what the world does not know. And again, this book right here that is giving to us in the mathematical language has to be decoded. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us that teaching because this teaching is not for everybody. We can't give our teaching to everyone. And I remember the first time I picked up the Supreme Wisdom was before I came into the Nation of Islam. Thank you, Sister Renee. Before I came into the Nation of Islam, this book was like Greek to me. It was like Greek, it was like Hebrew, it was like other languages that I have never known. And I thought I knew mathematics, but I really didn't understand mathematics. And even now, I'm going back to the drawing board, picking up the subject of mathematics. Because as black people, and I can bear witness to this myself, how many of us are afraid of math? If we took a mathematics test right now, and there was some language in it, and there was some mathematical questions, how many of you would skip the math part, right, circle it, or abacadabra it, ABC it, fill in the blank, and move on? Again, we have to confront that, because the secrets of Allah, the secrets of life is in that language of mathematics, and mathematics is a universal language. But also mathematics is Islam, and we can prove it at no limit of time. Next slide, please. Now, I'll start off with the supreme wisdom, because that's where we're given our instructions. And we're given our instructions by our Savior, Master Fard Muhammad. And in number 12, in the rules and original instructions, number 12 says to us as the MGT, right before he sends all of us out on the commission to help resurrect the dead. And I found it interesting that he would warn us, give us a word of warning before he would give us the instructions to go out and resurrect the dead. And he says to us, the MGT and GCC, I can sit on top of the world and tell everyone that the most beautiful nation is in the wilderness of North America. We can bear witness to that. Is that right, sisters, brothers? He says, but do not let me catch any sister other than herself in regards living the life and weighing properly. And it's not just properly from a physical perspective, because this is the teachings for our spiritual consciousness. But it gives it to us in spiritual parables. It gives it to us in spiritual formulas, because sometimes we have to start off with the spiritual. We give milk before we give milk, right, to babies, because if we gave the baby meat, then that may destroy that baby's system, make them sick. So we first learn the physical aspect of these teachings. And then as we develop, we become more spiritual and we become more mental in our being as opposed to just some physical being. Because we know that we are spiritual beings inside of a physical body. Is that right? That we control this body. We control our environment. We control those things around us. So this instruction was given to us for us not to live a life other than ourselves. But if you look at the reality of what we've been doing, we've been living the lives other than who we are, and we have been weighing improperly. And that weight that we have been carrying on ourselves has really been the weight of the world, has been the weight of Satan. And so on today's lecture, I want to help shed you of some of that weight that you have been carrying. And that weight that we've been carrying has been the false data, the false information, the false propaganda that has been given to us as black women of who we are. Black men, you see us in a certain light. And so you treat us a certain way based on somebody else's equation. But I'm going to tell you about a new unit of measurement, a new standard that has been given to us, not only from the God himself, but we have a man and a leader in our midst who does everything he can for the black woman. This man loves us so much, sisters, that he makes sure that not only are we protected, but that he raises us on a level above any other woman in this universe and this planet. And that's none other than the black woman of North America. But we know that we are God's. We know that we're just not somebody that's beside a man. We know that we're not just somebody that's supplemental to a man. But we know that we're complementary to our black man. And we love you, brothers. We love you. Next slide, please. So in the Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, it says, why did Musa have a hard time to civilize the devil 2000 BC? Answer, and you can recite if you know it. Because he has been a savage. A savage means a person that has lost the knowledge of himself and who is living a beast life. Musa was a half-original man and a prophet. 2000 BC means before Christ. In the Asiatic world, it was the 11,000 hour. Civilized means to teach the knowledge and wisdom of the human family of the planet Earth. And I underline what I wanted to highlight, savage. See, we have to parse words. We have to understand the words that we read and the words that we say. Because a lot of times we walk around here saying things that we really don't understand. And if we understand that in the word was the beginning, right? And the word was made flesh. And that would be us. So we have to understand this word because these words have significance. So savage means a person that has lost the knowledge of himself and who is living a beast life. And so when you lose the knowledge of yourself, you can't help but to live a beast life. And civilized means to teach the knowledge and wisdom of the human family of the planet Earth. The next slide, please. So we have some instructions. So what is the meaning of civilization? Answer, one having knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement, and is not savage. We have to parse these words. We have to figure out what the definition of knowledge is, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement, and to not be savage. And then all in all, the end resolve is what? The pursuit of happiness. Do you not want to be happy? Well, then that's why you have to become civilized. Now, the next question, 18, what is the duty of a civilized person? Now, you have a duty if you call yourself civilized. You have a significant duty, and responsibility carries a heavy weight. And once you know, you cannot act like you don't know. And what is the duty of a civilized person? Is to teach the uncivilized people who are savage civilization, righteousness, the knowledge of himself, the signs of everything in life, love, peace, and happiness. Again, we're talking about happiness, the pursuit of happiness, love, peace, and happiness. That's what we want. But can we say, are we living in a world of happiness? Are we living in a world of peace? In our own lives, if we reflect on what's going on, can we truly say that Allah is sufficient and that we are happy? Can we truly say that we want for nothing? Can we truly say that we are not stressed out about nothing and we don't have any worry? Most of us, the answer is no. That's because we've lost the knowledge of ourselves and what? Living a beast life. Now, 19, it says, if a civilized person does not perform his duty, because we have a duty, what must be done? Answer, if a civilized person does not perform his duty, which is teaching civilization to others, they should be punished with a severe punishment. I have a duty. You have a duty after today to bring in civilization. You have a duty to help the savage. As Sister Kiana has said, we as servants of Allah, we have a duty to help civilize those who are not civilized. Now, we're not sitting here in a position as if we're better than you, because refinement means one who goes through perfection. We're not perfect. We're in that stage of being refined like gold, when we're in the fiery furnace and when the impurities in that gold comes up and the dross is taking off so that we may be able to see the reflection of Allah. So we all are in this class. We all are becoming civilized, but we have a duty. So I stand before you with a duty to teach civilization. And as a woman in the MGT and GCC class, I have a duty to teach my sisters. Next slide, please. Now, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that he said to all of us that all our studies, history is the most attractive and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. He said to us that history is our guide, for if we know what was, then we have a better understanding what is, and we are more prepared for what is yet to come. And so on today, I wanted to give you, I'm going to always give you some science, right? Because we have to prove this Islam at no limit of time. We have to prove it in mathematics. So when I come before you today, and anybody who comes on this rostrum, we don't come here to preach. I know we go into the churches and we get the preaching and the hooping and the hollering, but when you come into the class of God, this is truly a class, and we will educate you. Now, the will of Allah will be able to edutain you, giving you a little bit of entertainment with the education. But we come here with the sincere and the seriousness of this word and the coming of our Savior, which is none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But he taught us to make sure that we use history because it will best reward us. And we have to look at our history, black people, black woman, black man. We have to look at our history, because if we look at our history, we can understand the reason why we're in the predicament that we're in. And if we can understand the why we're in this situation and the reason behind we're in this situation, then we can have the keys and the tools to be able to raise ourselves up and raise each other up out of this situation. And I do say knowledge is power, but knowledge is responsibility as well. Now, I read this story. Let me give you a backstory about this whole topic. My children, they love the internet, y'all. Most youth love the internet. Adults, we love the internet. We love that social media. We can spend hours scrolling, getting in everybody's business about what's going on in social media. We got the new thing now where we have Netflix or Hulu or whatever the live streaming services are. We can sit and we can binge watch TV now. We can watch 13 episodes in one day and not get anything done in our world. We become fixated on television. And we don't realize the effect that these images and television has had on us. With the homosexual propaganda that has been spewed to us. And I know this is going to be a little bit controversial conversation we're going to have today, but we're going to knock the falsehood out of the brains, right? We're going to hurl truth at it, right? So when you look at how, I'm going to say government, the powers that be, the reality is Satan himself, how he has a system set up. And he knows that in order to capture our bodies, he must first do what? Capture our minds. And so he uses imagery, he uses television, he uses music in order to capture our minds. Therefore, he can capture our bodies and then put us in the state and condition that we are in now. And with the homosexual agenda, you saw that it was very heavily advocated in television. You know, it was eased in a little bit at a time. It was first innuendos of homosexuality, and then it became, you know, two people who were known as to be homosexuals, and then you started seeing people kiss, and then you started seeing every show at least had the token homosexual person, and the next, now you see that they have, in primetime TV, you have these whole sexual open relationships, and our children are watching this. And so now they've gotten their laws passed so that they, you know, they can get married. And it's not that we hate homosexuals, because believe me, I'm not homophobic. But we do not promote, we do not encourage that lifestyle at all. You can come to the mosque. We want you to come to the mosque. We want you to come as you are, but when you leave, you cannot stay as you are. But when you turn the television on now, because the propaganda is still being pushed, but first it was pushed to the adults. And so now it's being pushed to our children. And so every show that you see now, every primetime show that you see, This Is Us, The Conners, I can name a few more. You have the storyline of the young child now who's wrestling with themselves because they're dealing with a situation where they like another boy or they like another girl of the same sex. They have a boyfriend or they feel like they are homosexuals themselves and they don't know how to come out. So now television has given a vehicle, a route for our youth today to be able to come out and identify as homosexuals. But this is not brand new. This is not brand new. This agenda of using television is not brand new. And so as I was watching my children be so enthralled in the television, and my husband can tell you this, you know, cut the TV off. You know, my mother-in-law, she's good at making sure she gives the children books. You know, although we don't celebrate Christmas, she does. But when she celebrates Christmas and the presents that she gives the children, they're that of education. They're that of books. They're that of get your behind from in front of the TV and let's do something creative and productive. But most parents are not doing that. That's right. That's right. And as I scroll my Instagram account, because I use it to promote the teachings, I use it to help and try to serve our community. But I'm on it, and I'm looking, and things catch my eye, and I see Nicki Minaj, and I see our beautiful sister Cardi B. And nothing I say today is to disparage or to ridicule or tear down any sister. Everything that I say today is to help uplift and encourage and to help civilize and help our sisters come into the knowledge of who they are. Because if they're living a beast life, then that means that they don't have the knowledge of themselves. And as a civilized person, I have a duty to help civilize the uncivilized. And so I'm looking at these pictures of these women. And if you know the backstory of Cardi B, her claim to fame is being a stripper. And she's on reality TV and she's promoting the stripper life. And then Nicki Minaj, she, has gotten herself accentuated in all different parts of her body with plastic surgery, and she looks like a blow-up doll. And she's more like a pornography queen out there doling out music. And my daughters and my sons see this, and your daughters and your sons see this. And they think that this is the standard of what a woman should be. And as I'm looking at this, and it angers me because it's hard for me to find a woman that looks like me, a righteous woman, a woman that looks like you, a righteous woman. Because what you see on television, what you see on that social media, what you see as success is not that image that they're showing us on Instagram and social media and what other platforms. And so I said, well, what can I do? What can I do? I can use my voice. I can use my voice and I can teach and I can show that, no, this is how this happened. And they're being used as tools and don't know that. They're bringing in a civilization of women who are whores, that whoredom type of civilization. But we're trying to bring in a civilization of queens and kings and gods. So what do? All you have to do is put up a clean glass next to a dirty glass. And so that's what we're going to do. So I read a study showing, they did a study on youth's effect on media, how they mentally think. It concerns their body image. It concerns their self-esteem. And what they showed is that the black youths who had knowledge of themselves, they knew their black history. They were not easily influenced by what they saw on television. Now, don't get it twisted. There is some influence on their belief system, but they have a better hold on how they see themselves if they know who they are. And if you go to a school in the Nation of Islam, Muhammad University of Islam, or the elevated places we have here in Houston as well, then one of the first things that we teach our children is the knowledge of who they are. We teach them their actual history, not the history that was given to them by the slave master, filtered by white supremacy, but their true and actual history. And black history didn't start when we came on this land in North America. Our black history extends all the way to 68 trillion years ago and the creation of the God, the creator. And so in this study, it showed that those who did not have the knowledge of themselves were more susceptible of receiving the images and the messages that were on TV. And in the study, it said that black youth watch TV more than any other race, any other demographic. And then the television and the pictures and electronics are more heavily used now than they were 50 years ago. So the images they have now are at warp speed. And so next slide, I want to talk about the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So if you look at that iceberg, and that iceberg is used just as an analogy of your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. 10% of your conscious mind, which deals with your external area, your external view. It deals with your willpower. It deals with long-term memory. It deals with logical thinking. Thank you. We have a class today, y'all. It deals with your long-term memory, logical thinking, and critical thinking. Critical thinking. So you can see something. You visually see it, you have to pause, you think about it, then you respond, then you act. It takes a lot of effort to do that. So that's more of objective and external. Now, your subconscious mind, which is below 90%, below which you can't see, we talk about the seen and the unseen. And so your subconscious mind deals with beliefs, it deals with emotions, it deals with your habits, your values, it deals with your protective reaction. You see a spider, you jump. Why are you jumping? The spider, you 1 million times larger than the spider, but you're still jumping, right? Because there's something there that says that we should be afraid when it's an irrational thought. So it deals with our long-term memory, it deals with our imagination, and it also deals with our intuition. And so when we're watching television, and the advertisers and the scientists know this, that when they are selling us TV, when they're selling us their program, their propaganda, they know that when we sit down, we go into what's called a hypnotic state. And as soon, within 30 seconds, when we sit down and we watch TV, there's a flickering of the TV that you can't see. And it puts you in a meditative state. And in this meditative state, whatever the images or whatever the program that they're trying to sell you, it penetrates our conscious mind and we fail to pick it up. And what happens is it implants into our subconscious mind. And then it becomes our belief system. We can say that we have all the knowledge of ourselves and that we don't live a beast life and we are not at effect of what the propaganda that has been given to us by the white man. But then when we look at our reality, we look at the conditions, we look at our automatic responses, we are living that beast life that is being portrayed on television, whether we like it or not. Our children listen to the music, and I'll ask them, well, what does that mean? And they'll be reciting the lyrics, but not know or understand anything that has been given to them. I had a class, and they were talking about mollies and all different kind of drugs and selling drugs, and we like the beat, right? We're good for a beat, our jungle beats that they know to put us in a hypnotic trance. But then on top of those beats, they put us to sleep. And what we've been doing is we've been sleepwalkers. We've been zombies. We've been zombies, and we've been fulfilling the prophecy of the white man. We've been fulfilling the prophecies of Satan, and he does not have to force us, because once he catches our mind, then he can control our body. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful picture. So before there was television, they had what you call minstrel shows. And the way that, in the early 1800s, and it was when the white man would go into blackface, and they would mock us, and they would give us some, exaggerated characteristics. They would, make our lips extra big. They would make us into these lazy dimwits who were just buffoonery, just buffoons. We're superstitious. We don't really believe in God. And these minstrels, were across the whole nation. And this is how people came to know us, the false information that was fed about us. And then us not understanding our true history, because our true history was stolen from us. Our language was taken from us. Our names was taken from us. We were under the rule of white supremacy. We were under the rule of Willie Lynch. We were afraid to have any type of self-determinism for ourselves. We in Kwanzaa right now, and we talk about self-determinism and unity. We didn't have any of that for ourselves. So what could we say about these images that were being portrayed by other people about us? We believed that that was us because we had nothing else. We had lost the knowledge of ourselves, and we began to live a beast life. So we took what he gave us, and we ran with it, and we continued to be like that. Now, you see Mickey Mouse over there? Mickey Mouse came out of minstrel shows. If you really look at Mickey Mouse, you'll see that he was wearing blackface. Now, I used to watch Mickey Mouse and Tom and Jerry, right? And if you really analyze it now, without the filter of white supremacy, you'll see that the images and the propaganda of white supremacy was all in the cartoons that we were watching as children. So we were being dumbed down as soon as they had a chance. And that's where the word Jim Crow came out of. It came out of the song. It came out of the minstrels. And then even we fast forward to modern times, and you watch the white news anchor lady talk about it's okay to have blackface. Or we don't understand the history of blackface, or that was in the past, but we don't understand the ramifications or what it meant to black people to be in blackface and to call us other than what we are, gods. And so I start off with the minstrels shows because this is how the imagery of what a black woman came from. Next slide, please. Now, in Yes. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima was part of the minstrel show before she became a part of your breakfast. Aunt Jemima, there was a radio show where Aunt Jemima, white women would, there were 3 white women who would play the character of Aunt Jemima. And Aunt Jemima was a beautiful black woman who would give you all kind of recipes. She was your best friend. Aunt Jemima would tell you jokes. Aunt Jemima was she was a nurturer. You know, Aunt Jemima, socially, she was the acceptable Negro. She was the acceptable black woman. She's what you call Mamie. She was a caricature. And a caricature is a picture, description, or imitation of a person or a thing in which certain striking characteristics are exaggerated in order to create a comic or grotesque effect. So Aunt Jemima was not only to be funny, but Aunt Jemima and make mockery of us. But it also, at the same time, gave the grotesque effect of black women as us not being beautiful, as us not being non-threatening to the white woman and her family. But we know behind closed doors that the white man was raping our mothers and our sisters and our grandmothers, and regardless of how she looked. And if she was a child, he didn't mind either. So Mamie comes from the memoirs and diaries written by whites after Civil War, in which they told how happy they were at the sight of the house slave who was almost family. So your Mamie character, Mamie, she was the one who neglected her own family for the family of her slave master. She would ridicule anybody who came against her own white family. She gave up all of herself. She gave up her self-identity. She fed the slave master's children in spite of her own children needing to be nursed. But see, this character was created politically and socially to make the white woman feel better about herself and not feel threatened, and then to give the lie that the white man was not raping and maiming black women. And then what did we do as black women? Because we didn't have the knowledge of ourselves, because we lost the knowledge of ourselves and was living a beast life, then we played the part of Mamie. Hattie McDaniel. First black Oscar winner ever. They rewarded her for her character. And although she said she'd rather play a maid and get paid, she didn't realize the damage that she was doing by accepting the role. And we understand she really didn't have the knowledge of herself. And I promise you, if she had this knowledge now, she probably would have never played that role. But if you look in Gone with the Wind, you see that she was defending her slave master's house. And so that's what they wanted to portray of the black woman as a Mamie. Now, we have our modern day Mamie, right? The Popeye Annie, right? She's selling her fried chicken. Popeyes, modern day, we missed that, right? We still eating that Aunt Jemima's pancakes, though, right? Although we're taught not to eat the pancake, right? And how to eat to live. Still on the show. And as you see on the bottom, you know, they updated her. At first, she was a grotesque image. But then they got smart. So when the flour company decided that they wanted to sell their flour, their ready-made flour, or ready quick-made flour, then they used the name Aunt Jemima. Because that was, you know, she came with honesty, and she came with nurturing, and she know how to cook. You know, black women, we do know how to cook, right? And so she was the professional, she was the expert in that area. And so they used the image of the black woman. But see, at first it was a caricature of her, and then they actually had a real Aunt Jemima. And then I believe it was in 1896, in Chicago, they had the World Exhibition. And it was then where she became famous. The sister was named Nancy Green, and she traveled all over the country and really all over the world, portraying herself as Aunt Jemima. And as they became a little bit more politically correct, not that much more, because she does look like the help in that last picture. That's the long-standing Aunt Jemima that we know. They took the handkerchief off of her head and made her semi-attractive, but she still looks like the help. So then we have what you call the Jezebel. caricature, image, stereotype of the black woman. This Jezebel, and we know in this next slide, I had to be very careful at how I presented this next slide, Brother Darnell, because this is what we see most of the time. This is the propaganda that they give us about black women. Because when they came for us, we were in our native land. And so they figured since we were half dressed, then that we must have been savages and was just sexually promiscuous, and that we were just ripe for sex, and that they could have us at any time that they wanted us. And so they created this image to demonize the sexuality of black women. And as if we were promiscuous, we were loose. And, you know, the white women feared black women because they knew that the white man was in the back rooms raping our mothers and our daughters and our grandmothers. And so the images that they portrayed of us was sexually illicit pictures and images of us. Whether if it was on television or in print, these are some of the things that they would print about us as Jezebel. And if you know who Jezebel is in the Bible, because, you know, as Muslims, we teach from the Bible and we teach from the Quran. Jezebel was a queen married to King Ahab. And you can see this in 1 Kings. Read this in 1 Kings. But Jezebel, she worshiped all manner of gods but Allah, Baal and Asherah. And she was killing all the prophets of God. And, you know, she was killing people and taking lands. I mean, she was an evil woman. And Jezebel was prophesied to die and be eaten by dogs. But before she died, it was told that Jezebel got herself up really looking cute, all refined, in her queenlish regality, right? Her robes, and she painted her face because she knew that on her death, she wanted to die looking like a queen. And so the churches have taken this as her being made up looking like a prostitute. Hence, we have this image of Jezebel. But the image is placed on the black woman as a Jezebel and promoted to black women to be Jezebels. So, you know, again, I'm not trying to be controversial, but I just want to show you exactly where this image came from and how it was implanted in our culture and how we took on other than ourselves. We are living other than the life, and we are weighing not the proper weight because we're taking on somebody else's idea of who we are. And so these are some brilliant, beautiful sisters from Beyonce. She is one of the best entertainers of the world. But do she think that she will be able to be the best entertainer if she put some clothes on her body? Michael Jackson was one of the best entertainers of the world and still is. But he wasn't half dressed. But society, corporations, big money, they have dressed our sister up as looking like a Jezebel. And I went to the concert, and the concert was very hypnotic. It was very entertaining, but it was very sexual all at the same time. And then we get mad at our daughters, and we upset at our children because they're emulating this, what they see. Our sons, we mad at them for not being man enough. But hell, every time you turn on the television, you see a naked woman gyrating. He doesn't know if this is manly behavior or proper behavior because he's socialized by what he sees on television. And if he's not taught the proper knowledge or she's not taught the proper knowledge of herself, then she does not know how to act properly. And so, Little Kim, that's my era. That's my era, Little Kim. Nicki Minaj wanted to be like Little Kim, although she distanced herself from her. And then Cardi B wanted to be like Nicki Minaj. So do you see how it's just being passed down from generation to generation? But then you look at beautiful sisters like Josephine Baker. People say she broke all kind of box office records. She broke down all kind of walls. But how did she break those walls down? By being a Jezebel-like caricature. Dorothy Dandridge. Right there on the bottom. Her and Halle Berry almost look alike, spit image of each other. Halle Berry was the modern day Jezebel a few years ago. I'm just calling it as I see it. I'm not putting a sister down because in the end we want to lift her up. But we just want to show what the reality is. And you know, Halle Berry, she won an Oscar. She won an Oscar in Monster Ball. By what? By taking her clothes off. So she's a great actress, but she was rewarded by taking her clothes off. Next slide. You know, let's go back real quick. Let me stay right there on Jezebel. So you had two types of Jezebel. You had the pathetic other. So the pathetic other Jezebel, let me see if there's a picture of the pathetic other. This right here is a pathetic other. So what they would do is they would make these caricatures of the black woman to make her grotesquely sexual. Again, the social propaganda saying that we don't want your black woman. Although she may be a Jezebel, she's loose and she's ugly, have her with sagging breasts, big lips, inebriated. That was the image that they gave us of black women, that she wasn't beautiful enough to be desired. She was the one who was forcing her sexuality on other people. And again, this was to make society feel better about themselves, to say, we don't want that black woman, but we know that's a lie. Now, in 1964, the presidential election between Lyndon Johnson and Barry Goldwater, Johnson used the political slogan, all the way with LBJ. At a mid-1960s license plate shows a caricature black woman pregnant with these words, I went all the way with LBJ. I don't know if you can see that. But here again, this was shade being thrown at the Democratic Party because most of black people supported LBJ. And so you have this black woman, this what they call pickaninny black woman, which is a derogatory word for a child. And here you have this child who's pregnant. And in here, if you can see the innuendo, I went all the way with LBJ, as if she has sex with LBJ and is having a baby by him. You may have missed that, but that's what it meant. And these were on bumper stickers. And this was supposed to be a joke. That's right. Now, blaxploitation. I know about Foxy Brown, all those type of characters. So that was in the 1970s, the exploitation of black people, especially with regard to stereotype roles in movies. So we as black people, we were willing to take on the roles of blaxploitation actresses and actors. Why? Because in these particular films, this particular genre, we were fighting against the man. We were fighting against those who were oppressing us. But the way that they portrayed us as brutes, they portrayed us as gangsters, they portrayed us as killers, they portrayed us as prostitutes, they portrayed us as Jezebels. So unknowingly, again, here we are, over 200 blaxploitation films, and we take on the word blaxploitation just like we take the N-word, and we make it into our word. Endearing. Exactly, endearing. But then these blaxploitation, we thought it was a good thing for us, but it only perpetuated the stereotype of who we are. We're not pimps, we're not gangsters, we're not brutes, we're not killers, we're not prostitutes, and we're sure enough not Jezebels. But over 200 films out there depict us in that light. And if you look at this magazine picture right here, you see the man with the dogs, right? And this is an advertisement. The man with the dogs, the white woman standing showing you her jacket, right? Right. But then you see this black woman showing you her other stuff. Right. And the dogs, they more interested than the white man looking at the black woman. That's right. Come on. I mean, it's all in our advertising. To this day, the black woman is the Jezebel. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And our daughters and our sons, they're watching this, and they want to emulate it, and they think it's okay. And God forbid you say something about it, they'll attack you about that. We ask you to cover up your chest. We're taught in the Nation of Islam, if you see our collarbone, it is as if we're naked. You don't need to see none of that. You see our face, and you deal with our mind and our spirit. because it's been taken advantage of. And then they use these beautiful sisters to promote this propaganda, and they reward them heavily. But they have to use sisters who don't have the knowledge of themselves and is living a savage life. And that's not us today, is that right? We're knocking out the brains of falsehood. So the next caricature of the black woman is Sapphire. Sapphire Stevens, to be more specific, but better known as Sapphire, or AKA ABW, the angry black woman. We know that stereotype, black woman. That stereotype is so prevalent among, just period. Anytime you see a black woman and she speaks out for herself, the first thing that they do to punish us is to give us the title, the slur, the angry black woman. And see, the Sapphire caricature portrays black women as rude, we're loud, we're malicious, we're stubborn, we're overbearing. And this was popularized in television. You know, we were tart-tongued, we knew how to emasculate our man. And see, you won't see an angry black woman in television unless you see the dim-witted, the weak black man. Because she needed a target. She needed a target. And it wasn't the white man that she was targeting. Nowadays, it doesn't matter what it is. The black woman gonna go off, it doesn't matter at all. She gonna criticize you without no critique, right? She gonna put you down. Don't look at her hard enough, and she gonna be like a pit bull ready to fight you. And that's how they portrayed us. And then you had the sassy mammy. So then as it went along, the mammy went from this maternal, fat black woman who was taking care of the white man's children, but then they gave her a little attitude now and called her the sassy mammy. So we see her like Medea. That's the Medea, the sassy mammy. Because we love her so much, as the white family, that we can let her do that. We let her talk to us like that, but in reality, let a black woman talk to a white man like that back then. Or a black man speak up for himself, or a black woman speak up for herself. She would be lynched, raped, burned. But yes, that was the image that they wanted to portray, the sassy mammy. And then in Amos and Andy, y'all remember Amos and Andy? And to my youth, I need y'all to do your research. Don't take my word for this. Do your research. Amos and Andy, very, very stereotypical, very, very racial. The stereotypes in it, very racial. And the character, Sapphire, oh my God, she would ridicule her man, call him all manner of names in a way of joking around. It's not funny because it adds to the degradation of the black man. We talked about feminism, and how feminism was used to try to weaken and destroy the black man, and use the woman as a scapegoat or as a tool to bring down the black man. Again, Sapphire was that character to try to minimize the role of the black man in his house. And so the woman sees the image of this woman speaking up to her man, or has a man who just, who's not doing too well, who may have lost his job, who it may be hard for him to find a job because of the powers that be and the establishment. And instead of dealing with him in kindness, instead of being that helpmeet to help her husband, then the next thing she does is she brings him down and holds him down and tears him up with her mouth. This is what we saw on television, and we thought it was funny. But we was in a hypnotic trance. And we still in that hypnotic trance and how we deal with our brothers. Because we're living other than ourselves and living the life other than ourselves. How many of us can honestly say we deal with our man in the proper manner, in a loving way, in a logical way, in a way that uplifts him? The angry black woman. And then it was used as a weapon against black women. Because don't you speak some kind of dissatisfaction. You can be intelligent about it. You can be as quiet as you can all be. But if you in the boardroom and you see racism going on and you point it out, oh, that's the angry black woman. So they discredit us. Or you see you see characters, caricatures of women in the boardroom who surrounded by the black men, and the white men, and she's overbearing against the white men. They feed us that imagery of who we are. Now, remember Aunt Esther? Sanford and Son? Did I put up there? Oh, yeah. Aunt Esther. For those who don't know who Aunt Esther is. Sanford and Son is still in syndication. Still in syndication. Aunt Esther and what was his Fred G. Sanford. Right. Now, mind you, she was married to who? Woodrow. Remember, when you have a sapphire-like character, you have to have a black man to beat up. Not only did she beat up on Fred G. Sanford, every man that she came across, she was beating up. And we laugh now. But we were fed this propaganda about the black woman and who she is. Fish-eye fool, what else she used to say? Some things I can't say, right, because it's not appropriate for families. But that was their prime time. And still in syndication at this time. George Jefferson, what was the name of that show? The Jeffersons? Who was the sapphire in that one? Exactly. And although George Jefferson may have had a bunch of money and had a cleaners and was successful, she still had to berate the black man. And then in my time, this is in my time, Martin. Come on, Pam. Yes, exactly. Now, you did have Gina, who was a loving wife, loving girlfriend, but you had to add the element of sapphire to make it funny. And that's what they did to China Arnold's character, is to make her into a sapphire and to beat up on the black man. So, and then, I'm sorry, y'all, and Medea, we have these black men dressing up as these angry black women. Shanae was uneducated, right? We laughed at her. We poked fun at her for being ghetto. But although we may have been laughing at ourselves, there was an image about ourselves that were being implanted in our mind. And although there may have been black writers on the show, that which was coming out was not really uplifting to the black woman. It was nothing more than a minstrel show that black people were playing. Now you look at, we love Michelle Obama, our first lady, right? She will forever be our first lady. But even they attacked her and called her the angry black woman. Very prominent magazine, The New Yorker, has her as this militant black woman. Because she's educated, because she speaks up for injustices, because she backs her man. And they call her a sapphire, an angry black woman. And they still continue to call her that. And this is what, 2018. Some of these pictures in the 1800s, you see Precious over there. I can't even watch that movie. This is part of that movie. It's something in my spirit, can't even watch it. Because we have the angry black woman who's been abused and doesn't mind other people around her to be abused. She's not angry about the things she needs to be angry about. She just walks around just being bitter. And that's the state of the black woman. We've taken on other than ourselves. We're living a life other than ourselves. Because somebody fed that to us and told us that's who we are. And you have, the matriarch. The matriarch stereotype is one of the main pictures white America have in their heads about black women. The matriarch is a strong black woman who acts as both mother and father to her children, either because the father has left or is not living up to his duties. She's pictured as dark, fat, ugly, and is looking much like a man. Hence, Precious again. Hence, Medea. But how many images have we seen of the black woman. She's either pregnant, right? A bunch of children around her. You know, she's a martyr. The man has left her. She can't have a good relationship with the man, but she sure can have a bunch of babies with the man. This is what they say about us. That we don't have the capacity to have marriages. We don't have the capacity to have families, healthy nucleus families. We don't have that capacity. And so we believed it. And we believed that we were incapable of having good, healthy relationships because we didn't know how to properly deal with the black man, acting other than ourselves. And that leads me to the next slide. The welfare queen. The welfare queen did not exist until President Reagan was running for president. The welfare queen, her characteristics is one of the pictures that white Americans have in their head about black women, where she's living comfortably on welfare, bringing up a big family without a husband, with children from different fathers. You can't have the same father for your child if you have more than one. Tell the truth. Claudine with the trash man, and he was going to save her, right? But the welfare queen, you know, she has this insatiable desire for sex, but no willingness to work and do for self. That's the welfare queen. And it comes from Ronald Reagan when he ran for president in 1976. He told the story of a black woman who made $150,000 off the government from gaming the government. She drove a Cadillac, he told us. Now, the press tried to find who this woman was. They still looking for her. Truth be told. And they realized that this was a lie. But it doesn't matter now. That image of the black woman is out there. And the reality is, it's not black women. The highest people on welfare is black women. No, it's white women. The numbers reflect a significant overestimation of the number of black Americans benefiting from the largest programs. Medicaid had more than 70 million beneficiaries in 2016, of whom 43% were white, 18% were black, and 30% Hispanic. Of 43 million food stamp recipients in 2016, 36.2% were white, 25.6% were black, 17% Hispanic, 15% unknown. We're not the welfare queens. So I show you this, I teach you this, so that we can make this falsehood vanish. We knock out its head with truth. But now that we know better, we do better, and we can make it vanish. I don't want to continue to talk about what we are not, because we are not a Jezebel. We are not a Mamie. We are not a sassy mammy. We are not a welfare queen. We are not an angry black woman. But we have been dealing with injustices. We haven't had our freedom, right? We haven't had equality. But we know that there's a man on the scene in our presence that is a liberator of all women. But his first mission is with us, sisters. Because we're taught that 75% of the teaching is with the woman. But if we can't look at our history and how we've been portrayed, we can't change our ways, because we're going to sit right back and plop right back down in that television. And we're going to enjoy stories like shows like Star, or what's the other show with our girl Taraji Henson? Empire. And we deal with those type of characters. And we laugh at ourselves. And I know sometimes we have to laugh at ourselves to keep from crying. But if we had a better understanding of where these images came from, then we know that we can continue to laugh at ourselves, but give us more beautiful images to laugh at. And we don't have to cry no more. The messenger didn't want any of his believers crying. None of them. We're in the pursuit of happiness. And do you think that being a Jezebel and being a Mamie type caricature, or being an angry black woman, is going to allow us to have happiness, peace, and love? But I wanted to show you some other beautiful sisters. Queen Nzinga. She was the queen of the monarch of the Mbudu people. She was a resilient leader who fought against the Portuguese, and their expanding slave trade in Central Africa. Angola is free because of her. She was a fighter. She had a war over 30 years. She was a diplomat. She was a leader. She went to a meeting one time where they had kings and governors, and there was no chair for her. But immediately she looked at her servant and she told her, and the servant knew what to do, and she got on her knees and she sat down like it was her makeshift crown. This woman commanded the respect of the world. And she died of old age. They tried to assassinate her, but she was able to die of old age, still in power and ruling. This queen right here. And then you have Dr. Donella Wilson, who is a molecular biologist. Anybody know her? No. She graduated from Harvard. She went to MIT. She had the ability to clone. She was at the forefront of cloning. And then what did she do? She took her education and she went to Meharry Medical School and she taught over there because she wanted to make sure that all that wisdom that she had gained in knowledge and expertise, that she wanted to make sure that it was passed down through the black man and the black woman. So let's talk about Dr. Donella Wilson. And then we talk about Patricia Cowings. We saw the movie Hidden Figures, right? She's an aerospace psychophysiologist, and she was the first African-American scientist to be trained as an astronaut by NASA, though Sally Ride was the first American woman to fly in space. So she came before her. Although she was an alternate for space flight in 1979, she didn't travel to space. She's most well known for her studies in the physiology of astronauts in outer space, as well as helping to find cures for astronauts. This black woman right there. And then we have Tamika Daniel Mallory, our beautiful sister who's under attack right now. Right. Because of her affiliation with us. With us. This beautiful, strong sister. She's an activist. She's a national co-chair for the Women's March. They're trying to boot her from being the co-chair of that. Because she stands with a black man who loves black women and who's unafraid to speak unapologetically about our injustices. This woman right here, if you don't know her, she's in our presence right now. And that's none other than Mama Ernestine Rose, educator for over 30 years, author of 5 books, and my mother in love. And she lost her husband almost a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And she wrote a book on grief. She wrote a book on grief because she took her experience and her testimony because she wanted to share it with other sisters on how to overcome that grief and everything in their cycles and seasons. And that's the name of her book. So that was an unapologetic plug. And then the last sister we have here is Charlotte Ray, Esquire. Charlotte Ray was the first black American female lawyer in the United States. She graduated from Howard University of Law in 1872. She was also the first female admitted to the District of Columbia Bar and the first woman admitted to practice before the Supreme Court of the District of Columbia. Her admission was used as a precedent by women in other states who sought admission to the bar. So she was a trailblazer for me, for Sister Kiana, for other black attorneys, and for women, period, who are not able to sit for the bar. And that's this sister right here. So I just wanted to show you some reflections of you that did not look like these caricatures that the white man would have you to believe about yourself. Now again, the Holy Quran says in 21 and 18a, we hurl the truth against falsehood. So it knocks out its brains, and lo, it vanishes, and woe to you for what you describe. So we've just knocked out some brains. So I gave you the reality of what is in this world. But now I want to give you the spiritual aspect. Because the Holy Quran and the Bible, we're all in it. As women of God, We're all these prototypes. And if we study these words, then we can get back to who we truly are and begin to live the life and not way other than ourselves. Because these examples that we have in the Bible, especially of Mary, as the examples that we must study. The minister wanted us to study Mary, the mother of Jesus. He wanted us to study Elizabeth because it's deep. It's more than the surface level of just being Jesus' mother or being Jesus' aunt. We have to study these Marys. And there's about 6 Marys in the Bible. We'll only go over 3 today. But we need to study these Marys and why were all of these Marys surrounded by Jesus. And Mary was a very common name in the area. And there are several definitions of what Mary meant. Now, let me give you. The meaning is not known for certain, but there are several theories, including the sea of bitterness. Does that describe the black woman? The bitter black woman? Although we may not be a caricature of Sapphire, but we are bitter. We're bitter fruit, are we not? We're not good to the taste. Why? Because we've been abused, we've been neglected, we've been misused. We've beat you up, brothers, so you don't know how to properly deal with us. We're taught that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. But we're not even considered a woman. We're being objectified. We're an object. We're not even a person. And that's what the white man would try to have us be, for you not to see us as sisters, for you not to see us as human, for you to see us as things, because if you just see us as things, then you treat us as things. Not with emotion, not with love, not with happiness, not with compassion. You wouldn't treat us that way. That's why we're the most abused and most neglected, because we're not seen as gods. Now, Mary is hailed all over the world. The mother of Jesus is hailed all over the world as the standard of the woman that we should be. But the world doesn't realize that Mary is the black woman. And if they knew that Mary was the real Mary was the black woman, then do you think that we would be treated the way that we're treated now? They probably would still treat us that way, because they know that the secret of God lies in us, and they know that their rule is over, and they want to bring us down with them. And then they know that through our womb, that the Jesus is going to be born. A Savior is going to be born, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called the King. He knows this. Because if you study your Bible, we know that when Mother Mary was pregnant with Jesus, we know that the prophecy was being fulfilled. And that prophecy was us. We were the American so-called Negro, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described us. The black man and the black woman in North America. We were what they were waiting for. We are those Jesuses. So let's talk about Mary. Who is Mary? And when we talk about Mary, I want you to think to yourself, how am I a reflection, or how am I not a reflection of Mary? Because now we're putting up that clean glass. So let's start with Mary Magdalene. Now, you know that the Bibles of the book, they're all not there, right? The Gospels. The church got together and decided what to put in the Bible. What books to put in the Bible. There was some there that got added, and then some that were too controversial that was left out. Because if we knew the true teachings of Jesus, and we knew the true teachings of God, then we as black people, because that was the weapon they used, the Bible, against us. They used Christianity against us. They used the Word of God against us to make us subservient. And then they dumbed us down. Just like television. When we watch television, it goes into our subconscious mind, and then our beliefs are dictated on that, and our habits and our actions are dictated on that unseen, that 90%. So they gave us the surface understanding of the Bible to make us subservient and subjugated to them. But there was a gospel that was missing from the Bible. And the Catholic Church, and we've all heard that Mary Magdalene, the story, the myth of Mary Magdalene being a prostitute. Right. The Roman Catholic Church backed away from that myth. But just again, with the whole idea of what the black woman is, the lies, once we clear up that lie, they still don't mind riding with the lie. But Mary Magdalene, in the Bible, she was the one that Jesus healed from the seven sins or the seven demons. She was that one. And I'm quite sure we got more than 7 demons in us, more than 7 sins in us, brothers and sisters. But we thank Allah that he came to save us so that he can cleanse us from our sins, help us lead onto a spiritual path, and help us be perfected and refined through the knowledge of ourselves and cultivation. And cultivation is nothing but the retraining and the teaching and the educating. That's why we have the class of the MGT, GT, and GCC, Muslim Girl Training and General Civilization class. We needed a retraining because what we were trained to do and trained to be was something other than ourselves. Brothers, I don't want to put you to sleep. I'm coming over there, okay? But you got to remember, the 75% is with the woman. So we are here as your helpmeets. And we want you to meet whatever it is you have to meet with Allah. But if we don't get right, if we don't come into ourselves, and we don't stop wanting other than ourselves, then we can't help you to be that Khalifa. So, sisters, Mary Magdalene, she was not a prostitute. She was a helper. She was considered the apostles' apostle. The apostles' apostle. So although the 12 got recognition, believe it, she was in the midst. And in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it talks about how she was loved most by Jesus, the Savior. And the apostles knew this. And Peter went to, as Jesus sent them on their way to the 4 corners of the earth to help resurrect the people. The apostles, they got scared. Come on. Why did they get scared? They got scared because they saw what happened to Jesus. They saw the ridicule. They saw the persecution. They saw the slander, the defamation of his character. And they knew that once he left their midst and they were out to resurrect the people, they knew that they would come against the same forces or greater. That's right. And they wasn't ready for that. But Mary Magdalene, in the midst, she stood up. And you can read this for yourself. She stood up and she tried to comfort them. And Peter said, tell us some of that wisdom, that revelation that the master gave you. See, woman, remember, the secrets of God are with you. Make it plain. Make it plain. Brothers, that's why you have to protect the black woman. Because she is going to bring in the new world order. She is the one vested with that secret and that revelation of God. And so you have to protect that, which is valuable. If you knew that thing that had the secret to save you was there, would you not do everything you could to protect it? That's the black woman. So the Gospel of Mary Magdalene only bore witness that Jesus gave her these secrets. And as she was expounding on a vision she had, we talk about the visions. Then you had a couple of the disciples who didn't believe her. They ridiculed her. They couldn't believe that the Savior was that close to her to even give her the revelation. But there was But there was a disciple in the midst, Levi, who stood up for her. And he knew Peter was a hothead. But he had to acknowledge that the Savior, that the Master, he loved this black woman. He loved this woman. That's why she was a good servant unto him. She was a good helpmeet unto him. She trusted him. And he trusted her enough to give the secret revelations. That's Mary Magdalene. And if you look at her history in the Bible, she was an avid follower. Now, again, she was not a prostitute. She was a woman of wealth and resources and means. She was that woman that was always at the feet of him. It was something about his feet that she was always bowing down to him. And she took that most expensive perfume when she knew and had a feeling and the intuition that her master would soon be leaving the midst. And she took that perfume that permeated the room, and she washed his feet, not with a rag, not with the cloth, not with her hands, but with her crown and glory, her hair, her headpiece. So as women, when we walk around with our headpieces on, that is our crown and glory. We worship him. We are the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And you know us as Muslims in North America by our headpiece. And when you see us, we have a sweet fragrance, right? This headpiece represents something powerful, our crown and glory. And so Mary Magdalene, with her statement, with her hair, showing that she will serve her master with all of her heart, body, and soul. And if you know the story, Judas was upset. He was upset. We could have sold that. We could have used that perfume, right? Put it in the till. He wasn't concerned about her worship of God, worship of this man, of her Savior. But Jesus knew that he would be away soon, and he let her. And so, sisters, when you look at Mary Magdalene and the prototype of Mary Magdalene, she was a woman who was a follower of Christ. She loved him. She used her resources to help him, to show and prove that she loved this man. We have our resources. We have our 7 units. And see, the class was set up to show who God was and to show that we are God's as well and to bring in a new civilization. And every time you hear me talk, I'm going to talk about the MGT class and how we can go into anybody's kitchen. And although the Mamie may be able to have a mean recipe and cook a mean meal, we know how to bring you back to life, like Lazarus. We know how to bring gods into this world because we have the knowledge of how to give birth to a God, how to give birth to a Moses and a Jesus and an Abraham. And then we know how to clothe ourselves. Because we know that the images that they may portray of us as other than ourselves, we know that we are queens and we are gods. And when we enter the room in our garment, oh my God. My sister Naisha had on this blue garment. Oh my God. Muslim in the Nation of Islam, but she went to a wedding, a Middle Eastern wedding, where they wear hijabs. And nothing against hijabs because they're beautiful as well. But it's something about our dress that, as Sister Trey would say, it make them all pause. But we know how to dress ourselves and dress our children because it's also our protection. And then we have in our class how to take care of our husbands because we got to deal with them in a certain way. We can't deal with them like Sapphire. We can't deal with them like the pathetic Jezebel that's undesirable. We can't deal with them like a Mamie, asexual, subservient to somebody else. We go out there in the world and we do for massa. But when we come home to our husbands, he can't rule over us. He can't protect us because you can't protect what you can't control. We don't want to be under their tutelage. We don't want to be under their direction because he knows that there's a secret revelation in us that he's trying to protect. We just want to be the spoils of war. We want to be booty out there for the master to conquer us. But we're more than that. Mary. I'm still on Mary. Next slide. Y'all with me? Y'all tracking? Next slide. So, I can't come before you without quoting the Bible. Because again, as Muslims, we believe in the Bible as well. So the Mary of Bethany. I love this sister right here, sisters. It says, as Jesus and the disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. Again, that feet, at his feet. We got to study that. Mary at his feet. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Sound like a black woman, right? She not helping me. Tell her to help me. And what did he say in his most beautiful way? He says, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Wow. So what is he saying when he says this? Now, we're not detracting from Martha, because we need Martha in the kitchen to cook that beautiful meal for the apostle, right, and his disciples. Exactly, because that's a part. There's no small parts in this. There's no small parts in the nation, because many of sisters have gotten their holy names because of the foods that they have cooked. But he said, not at this dispensation of time. She needed to be right where she needed to be. And see, we're taught in the nation that, the home is our base, but not necessarily our place. We can go to wherever God-given gifts that Allah has given us, as long as we don't disrespect ourselves. And so although Martha had been in the kitchen and she was anxious about many things, and I can understand that. Anytime somebody come to my house and I know that the man of God, let Minister Farrakhan come to your house, you'll be mad that you need some help too. I'll be mad, Sister Naisha, sitting at Minister Farrakhan's feet. No, come here, help me. I got to get this done. That's real. But he was illustrating a point, because there's going to come a time, sisters, that we're going to have to be studied up. The messenger said he did not want any dumb women, no uneducated women, because we are the first teachers of that child. They learn about God from us. And so if we are an uneducated woman, then how we can teach the children that are coming into this new civilization, creating a new order? We are that new unit of measurement. So Mary was where she needed to be. She needed to be at his feet. She needed to be soaking up that divine wisdom of God, because he knew that he would not be in their midst for long. And he knew, just like Mary of Magdalene, he had to give her that revelation. Because when he left, so-called on the cross, and he was resurrected, who was there? It was Mary's. It wasn't just one Mary. It was the Marys that were there. And they were the ones who were the first ones to tell about the resurrection. So we have to teach the women, and we have to teach them right, so that they can be rightly guided. If somebody can get this. I'm going to just leave that down. But Mary, we're still talking about Mary. Mary of Bethany. Yes, not taken away from Martha. But that's right. Tell her not to moan. But Mary had a great works to do. And she could not come up from his feet, because she had something to give to the world. And she had to be there. So that's the thing about religion. We like to exclude the feminine expression of Allah. And we're dealing with the impediments, right? And one of them is sexism. And so when Master Fard Muhammad came on the scene, he wanted to do away with the sexism. He didn't look at us as a second-class citizen or subservient to the black man or anybody else for that matter. He saw us as gods too. There's not just a FOI class, a class for the black gods, the black men, but there's a class for us as well, so that we may be able to usher in. Oh, time is flying, y'all. I haven't even got to the mother of Jesus yet. But I can stay there because it's good enough. Let's go to the next slide. And if you could tell, I'm so full right now. And there will be a part 2 of this. So you know how I always tell you the story about Hannah? My story about how when I was 11 years old, I read the story of Hannah in the Bible. And Hannah was a barren woman, and she wanted children. And her husband had another wife who had many children. And she would pray to Allah, Allah, just bless me with a child. And she would go into the temple. And one day Allah heard her cry and answered her and told her that she would have a child. And she said, if I had this child would serve you all the days of my life. And so I took on that same prayer at 11 years old. And I knew that when Allah blessed me with children, with a daughter or with a child, it didn't matter to me that that child would serve my God for all the days of my life and her life or their lives. And so I didn't know that there was an exact same story in the Bible until I became a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the historical scholars, the Muslim scholars, talk about the wife of Imran. And they say that her name was Hannah too, Brother Eric. And in that, she wanted a son. And they were barren. They were a barren couple. And in that, she believed that she was pregnant with a child. And here in the Holy Quran, it picks up where it says, when a woman of Imran said, my Lord, I vow to thee what is in my womb to be devoted to thy service. So accept it from me. Surely thou art the hearing and knowing. She didn't know at that time that she was carrying a girl or a boy. They didn't have sonograms back then. But she prayed. And then she said, so when she brought it forth, she said, my Lord, I brought it forth a female. And Allah knew best what she brought forth. And that male is not like female. And I have named it Mary. And I commend her and her offspring into the protection from the accursed devil. So we're talking about the mother of Mary. And how she fashioned this little girl in her womb before conception. Because she knew that down the line, her daughter. See, we praise Mary because she brought Jesus. But her mama Hannah praised Mary before Jesus was even into existence. And so every child that we have, we must treat like that. We may not know if it's a girl or a boy. And when you hear Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talk about how he came into this world, his mother thought he was a girl. His mother did not want him initially because of the circumstances and the issues she had at that dispensation of time. But as the scripture says, and Allah knew best what she brought forth. Allah knew best what he brought forth, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he blessed Hannah's womb, and he blessed the Minister Farrakhan's mother's womb. He blessed that womb. And then when she was okay with the decision that she had, carrying that child, then she began to pray and pray and pray, not knowing that that child was going to be a savior to all of humanity and to us as black men and women in North America. So the prayers of the mother availeth much. Availeth much. No, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that Mary is a sign and Jesus is a sign, more than what we see in the Bible. It's more than just a woman who giving birth to a child. But Mary is a representation of the messenger. And I said before that the prophets and the messengers are fashioned as women because they're in love with God. And so you have to be that person who's in love with God and serve God and be that helpmeet with God. And that's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is for us. He is like unto a Mary. And we as the black people in North America, we are like unto Jesus. That's when he talk about the 4 Jesuses. The prophetic Jesus, the historical Jesus, Master Father Muhammad, who is our Savior, who is the living God. than the Son of Man, who he raised up in our midst. And that is none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he is the Son of Man. He came to help save us. Did he not? Yes. But then, that fourth Jesus, that's us. Because he's sending us out as to be reconcilers. He's sending us out to be the resurrectors. He's sending us out to be the saviors of the people. So we have to see ourselves in the book as well. So Mary and Jesus, they're a sign of us. Read your Bible. We're implored, right? In our instructions to do what? To read that book. Study that book. But we know that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And brothers, it's going to take you, and it's going to take your protection. It's going to take your strength. It's going to take your righteousness. It's going to take your wisdom to help elevate us, because we cannot rise by ourselves. We need you. And just like the Marys needed a male counterpart, they needed the well-made man. They needed the Zacharias and the well-made man, that angel that came to say that you're going to have a pure child, right? He didn't come trying to be underneath her clothes, but he came as a protector and a guide and to help sustain her when she had food that was out of season. She had food that was for the winter and the summer, and summer for the winter. And then when Zechariah, that's why he say study Elizabeth, but Zechariah was the husband of Elizabeth, the father of John. He was the caretaker for Mary. He was a righteous man. And Allah answered his prayer for a child. And see, Allah, he's sufficient. We don't really need a man. But he comes in the person of a man, because we don't believe in a spook God. He comes in the person of a man. And that's why we love the FOY. That's why we love you. Because we know that you are protectors, and you are sustainers, and you are maintainers, if we but understood. So we can be truly who we are as a people. We can be the Marys and the Jesuses. So we thank Allah for the liberators that came into our life. We thank Allah for Master Father Muhammad. We know we can't thank him enough. We know we thank the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because he loved us enough to give 75% of the Reformation to us, because he knew that we were going to bring that civilization in. And we love that beautiful black man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has dedicated his life to us, who has given us purpose, who has showed us who we really are, and given us a reflection of who we are, and that is that of God's. So sisters, I challenge you. It's not easy. When we came into the folds and we got this new teaching, and it's really not new, it's old, but it was hidden from us. When we came back to ourselves and stopped living the beast life, initially it was hard, because we had so much propaganda. We had so much information. But when God speaks to you, and he speaks to you directly from another man, do you not move? See, we have to stop the communication lag between when we hear God speak to us and when we act out. That's why in the Nation of Islam we drill, because when we get a command, we move. We don't think about the command. We don't confer with the command. We move. It's automatic. And so I'm speaking to you, and God is speaking through me, speaking to you, black woman, black man, that we have to become those Marys again. Off with the counterfeit, the false, the unreal representation of who we are, with the lie, the propaganda. We must strip that. We must take off that weight of someone else, because that's not us. But we must stand. We must stand up to be the true Marys that we truly are. So I ask you, sisters, today, if you truly see yourself as that Mary, because I know that I am, then I ask you today to stand up. Stand up. Let me see yourself as a Mary. Stand up if you believe yourself to be Mary. Don't be scared. Stand up. And brothers, if you pledge to protect this Mary right here, then I ask you to stand up. Brothers, Praise be to Allah. And together, we stand for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan as he helps resurrect the nation and as he ushers in this new world civilization. So we thank Allah. Thank Allah. We thank Allah. We can't thank him enough for his intervention in our affairs. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. So at this time,